There is a rhythm beneath everything, not loud enough to demand attention, but steady enough to shape the world. The turning of planets, the movement of thought, the quiet decisions that change a life, one moment at a time. When the screen glows softly and the mind begins to connect what once felt separate. Quantum pulse, small signals moving through the dark. Quantum pulse, tiny sparks becoming stars. Quantum pulse, nothing is fixed for as long as it appears. Possibilities unfold with every observation, every choice collapsing uncertainty into motion. And somehow that feels familiar, because focus works the same way. Countless directions reduced to one clear path, not by force, by attention. Quantum pulse, follow thread through space and time. Quantum pulse, where logic starts to run. Quantum pulse, the synth rises slowly like a pattern, revealing itself, first as intuition, then as understanding, then as certainty you can feel before you explain it. I trust that process the way meaning emerges from repetition, from patience, from staying with the question long enough to hear its answer. Quantum pulse, nothing wasted, nothing random. Quantum pulse, the hidden order becoming tangible. Quantum pulse, outside the night stretches infinitely, inside the same universe unfolds. Thought by thought, beat by beat, signal by signal, until the distinction between music and thinking begins to disappear, and all that remains is motion, precise, elegant, alive. My thoughts loosen their edges and begin to move like clouds, not scattered, not lost, simply drifting toward a shape. I cannot see it, but somehow trust the room is quiet except for the soft pulse vanishes another, and suddenly something new appears. Not forced, discovered. The best thoughts arrive like that, quietly, as if they were waiting for enough space to unfold. Neural drift, follow where the current goes. Neural drift, every answer softly grows. The sim shimmer overhead like constellations of possibility. Each note, a small connection, each repetition, a little more clarity. I stop trying to solve everything at once and let understanding build the way the night does. Gradually, beautifully, without announcing itself. Neural drift, slow enough to breathe, fast enough to stay alive. Neural drift, where intuition learns to fly. And somewhere between focus and wonder, the mind finds its natural speed. Not racing, not standing still, simply moving with quiet confidence toward whatever waits just beyond the next thought. Every thought begins as a signal, small and almost invisible. A flicker at the edge of awareness, too subtle to explain, too precise to ignore. It travels through the quiet, searching for resonance, for the one idea that answers back. Signal theory, meaning hidden inside the theme. Signal theory, what we send and what we send. can hear it clearly. The elegant conversation between thought and rhythm, between question and response, between what I'm searching for, what has been reaching toward me.
Everything appears solid until you look closer. Beneath the surface, nothing is standing still. Particles dancing hidden patterns, energy trading places, in movements too small to see, but too constant to deny. Atomic motion, the invisible world fully alive. Atomic motion, where the smallest forces drive. I think about that when momentum begins, how quiet changes accumulate until they become impossible to ignore. One beat, one thought, one decision, repeated long enough to alter everything. The drums hit clean, the bass pushes forward, and suddenly what felt theoretical becomes physical. You can feel it. You can feel it. Atomic motion, tiny shifts creating waves. Atomic motion, the structure that movement saves. There is power in what goes unseen. The habits, the patterns, the discipline, repetitions that shape outcomes long before they become visible. The universe understands this. It builds complexity from simple interactions executed with endless consistency. I try to do the same. Atomic motion, stay in rhythm, trust the scale. Atomic motion, small forces never fail. The city lights flicker like particles in motion, and the night itself feels like a living experiment. Proof that everything meaningful is built from countless subtle movements working together in perfect time. There are forces you never see, but you feel them in the way things return to where they belong. The moon to its orbit, the tide to the shore, a restless mind to the rhythm that steadies it. Gravity's sink, held in motion, held in place.
effortless grace. Nothing here is forced. The movement feels natural, as if each note already knows exactly where it should land. The bass moves low and warm. The sims open like distant skies, and between them everything aligns. I stop resisting the pull of what feels right. The ideas that keep returning, the work that continues to call me, the momentum that builds when attention and purpose share the same direction. Gravity is same, follow the orbit, trust the line. Gravity is same, everything arrives in time. There is comfort in invisible order, in knowing that progress does not require struggle. At every step, sometimes it is enough to remain in motion and let the larger pattern carry you forward. Gravity sink, steady heart, steady mind. Gravity sink, the universe perfectly aligned. And somewhere in the quiet, I understand. Balance is not stillness, it is motion, so harmonious. It feels like home.
It begins as fragments, numbers on a screen, ideas without order, signals arriving faster than they can be named. At first it feels like noise, but if you stay with it long enough, a pattern appears. Data stream flowing quietly through the mind. Data stream turning chaos into design. The rhythm never stops, it only evolves. One line connects to another, one thought supports the next, until complexity becomes movement and movement becomes understanding. I've learned to trust that process. Not every answer arrives complete. Some assemble themselves piece by at peace while you keep working. Steady bass below, clean sense above, everything moving with purpose, nothing wasted. Data stream, follow the current, stay aligned. Data stream, clarity unfolding over time. Hours pass unnoticed, not because time disappears, because attention deepens, the outside world softens, the internal signal grows stronger, and what once felt overwhelming becomes elegant, ordered, coherent, alive. Data stream, one connection, then another. Data stream, discovering shape beneath the numbers, and somewhere in the flow, I stop trying to force the answer and let it reveal itself through motion, through patience, through the quiet intelligence of staying engaged.
Some ideas arrive alone, clear and self-contained. Others appear only when two thoughts begin to move together, separated first, then gradually aligned. Parallel minds, different paths, same direction. Parallel minds, shared rhythm, shared reflection. I hear it in the layers, one melody rising gently, another answering below it. Distinct voices creating something larger than either could alone. That is how understanding grows. Not in isolation, but in connection, between logic and intuition, between structure and imagination, between what is known and what is still becoming. Parallel mind lines converging without losing shape. Parallel minds, every difference finding space. The bass holds steady while the synths weave around each other. Independent, yet perfectly synchronized. There is beauty in that balance, the ability to remain yourself while contributing to a greater pattern. I think of collaboration, of conversation. words, it simply travels straight through darkness, carrying information across impossible distances. No doubt, no detours, only direction. I think clearly when I remember that. Photon logic, bright thought in constant motion. Photon logic, precision with no friction. The melody arrives like a clean beam, cutting through the quiet, sharp but not harsh, focused but still warm. Every note lands exactly where it should, as if the song itself understands the path ahead. That is what logic feels like at its best. Not cold. Elegant, a sequence of small truths building towards something undeniable. Photon logic, see farther, think faster. Photon logic, turn insight into light. The city glows outside, each window a tiny signal, each signal a possibility. Patterns emerge for anyone willing to pay attention. The answer is rarely hidden, it is usually shining in plain sight, waiting for concentration to bring it into focus. Photon logic, clear lines, infinite reach. Photon logic, where reason and wonder meet. And somewhere between the beat and the brightness, thought becomes illumination, and the night feels full of discoverable things.
Nothing moves alone. Even the smallest particle responds to forces it cannot see. Direction is everywhere, subtle arrows drawn across space, guiding motion with quiet certainty. Vector field, invisible lines, showing the way. Vector field, where scattered paths begin to sway. I feel that same pull when focus takes hold, not a command. A tendency, a natural shift toward what matters most. Thoughts that once drifted
and meaning combined. Vector field, the shape of an ordered mind. The bass moves steadily, like a constant force. The Sims trace wide arcs through open space. Each layer adding direction without disturbing the balance. There is beauty in invisible structure, the quiet mathematics that turns complexity into elegance. Vector field, follow the gradient, trust the flow. Vector field, let the hidden current show. And somewhere between motion and intention, I understand. Clarity is not the absence of possibilities. It is knowing which direction contains the most energy and choosing to move with it. Vector field, vector field, vector field. There is a rhythm the mind returns to when concentration runs deep, not repetitive in a lifeless way. Repetition here is refinement, the same thought seen from a slightly better angle, the same pattern revealing one more detail. Cognitive loop, circling inward toward clarity. Cognitive loop, where focus becomes continuity. The melody repeats but never stands still. Small changes accumulate, a new harmony, a subtle modulation, a different perspective, and suddenly what felt familiar becomes insight. I have learned to trust these cycles. Understanding rarely arrives as a single breakthrough. More often it grows through return, through patience, through observation, through the willingness to stay with an idea long enough for it to unfold. Cognitive loop again, but deeper this time. Cognitive loop, every pass more refined. Outside the night remains quiet inside. The signal strengthens, thoughts connect, distractions fade. Time softens into rhythm. The loop continues. precision, removing friction each cycle, bringing the mind closer to a state where thinking feels effortless. Cognitive loop. Cognitive steady pulse, steady view, cognitive loop. The answer emerging through and through, until what I was searching for no longer feels distant. It feels inevitable. There is a boundary where familiar things begin to change. Not suddenly, but with a quiet certainty that tells you there is no turning back to the way you were before. Event horizon, the edge of what is known. Event horizon, where curiosity is drawn. The pull is subtle at first, a distant idea, a question that refuses to leave your thoughts. You circle it carefully, observing, measuring, wondering what lies beyond. Then one night, you move closer, and everything shifts. Time feels different, focus deepens. The outside world loses its weight. All attention falls inward toward the center of the possibility, too powerful to ignore. Event horizon, cross the line and keep your eyes open. Event horizon, the unknown becoming motion. The things expand like stars bending around gravity. The base remains steady, a constant force beneath the vastness. There is awe here, but also clarity, because discovery is not about certainty. It is about courage, the willingness to continue, even when the outcome cannot be predicted. Event horizon, exactly where the most interesting ideas begin.
Something changes so subtly you almost miss it. The same room, the same screen, the same late night silence, and yet everything feels different. Frequency shift, a small adjustment with a larger effect. Frequency shift, the signal finding a new depth. The beat continues, but the colors change. What felt familiar takes on another meaning. Warmer, clearer, more alive. That is how growth happens. Not always through dramatic change. Sometimes it begins with a slight turn in perspective. A willingness to tune a little finer, to listen a little deeper. Frequency shift, same motion, new understanding. Frequency shift, clarity through recalibration. The Sims evolve without breaking the flow. One texture fading, another emerging. The transition feels natural, as if the next version was present all along, waiting for the right moment to be heard. Frequency shift. Adjust the dial and stay alive. The future changing one tone at a time. Outside the city glows steadily. Inside the mind reorganizing. Ideas connect, old assumptions loosen, new possibilities resonate. And when the shift is complete, nothing appears radically different. But everything works better than before.
At first, it looks like randomness, scattered points, unrelated moments, signals without a story. But if you stay with it, if you keep watching, something begins to emerge. Pattern recognition, the hidden behind the choice. I have always loved that moment when confusion starts to organize itself. When disconnected details suddenly align and reveal that they were never disconnected at all. The melody returns in familiar form, slightly altered, slightly clearer, each repetition adding one more clue until the answer feels obvious, not because it was simple, because you learned how to see it. Pattern recognition, look closer, trust the signs. Pattern recognition, meaning lives between the lines. The base remains steady, a constant reference point. The synths evolve above it, like ideas finding structure. What once felt abstract becomes coherent. What once felt distant becomes understood. Pattern recognition, small details changing everything. Pattern recognition, clarity in what repetition brings. And somewhere between patience and attention, the world reveals its choir architecture. A reminder that understanding is often nothing more than learning where to look. There is always one more possibility, one more path the equation did not show at first, one more version of the idea, waiting just beyond what seems complete. Within a single line, the melody opens slowly, warm sims stretching outward like new dimensions appearing in the distance. The bass holds steady while the harmonies shift, constant at the center. Without structure, there is no foundation. Without possibility, there is nowhere to grow. Infinite variable. What is fixed and what can still evolve? Infinite variable, the beauty of unfinished thought. I have learned to stretches onward, filled with subtle changes. New ideas quietly entering the frame, and with every passing measure, the horizon expands. Infinite variable, steady core, open sky. Infinite variable, where logic learns to fly high, and somewhere between discipline and wonder, I find the freedom to keep becoming. All the scattered pieces begin to settle. Numbers, signals, late night thoughts that once seemed unrelated, now fitting together with quiet precision, not forced result. Final equation. Every variable finding its place. Final equation, clarity written across space. The journey was never about finding a single answer. It was about learning how to ask better questions, how to stay patient when the pattern was incomplete. That meaning was forming, even when it remained unseen. The bass moves steadily, like a constant beneath change. The Sims rise with calm confidence, not dramatic, certain. The kind of certainty that arrives after enough observation, after enough revision, after enough nights spent following curiosity wherever it wanted to lead. Final equation. Nothing missing, nothing excess. Final equation, elegance in what connects. Outside, the horizon begins to brighten. Inside, the mind feels lighter, not because everything is known, because what matters is coming to focus, and that is enough. One clear direction, one steady rhythm, one understanding that progress continues long after this moment ends. Final equation. it becomes inspiration. And as the last notes fade, I realize the most beautiful solutions do not close the door. They open the next question.